Hello everyone and welcome along to today's video where today I'm going to be taking a look back and do a little review of The Daleks, the second Doctor Who serial from 1963. So as I said in my last one of these reviews, I've just started watching Classic Who, or Doctor Who right from the very beginning, from An Unearthly Child, so I posted that review a week or so ago. Do go and check that out if you haven't already, and today I'm continuing with my sort of series of reviews. I'm planning over the next, I don't know how many, probably multiple years, I'm going to be going through, watching and reviewing every single Doctor Who story ever made. And today we reach The Daleks, the second serial, of course the introduction of The Daleks. So this is certainly an interesting story and a better overall story, I think, than what we saw in An Unearthly Child. Of course, episode 1, as I said, of An Unearthly Child was good, but the cavemen plotline just was not very good at all, if we're honest. Whereas in The Daleks, there was a bit more of an interesting plot going on with it. I mean, I have to admit this story is too long. It doesn't need 7 episodes. It's dragged out. It just is very slow-paced, I found, at times. I do enjoy Classic Who generally, but I'm finding a little bit with some of this early stuff that it is just very, very slow, because I haven't watched this story probably in about 5 years or so, and I've only really watched it maybe once or twice before, so it does feel pretty fresh to me, but it just was, I did have to watch it sort of in multiple sittings. I didn't watch it all in one go. It was just a bit too long, a little bit too slow. We spend a whole episode of them sort of almost just trying to cross a lake or get over some sort of hills and rocks and that kind of stuff. It's obviously padding it out, and TV was a lot slower back then, and I can understand everything behind why, but it just means that it's maybe not the most compelling viewing at times. That's not to say this is a bad story at all. Certainly early on it's fantastic. I mean, I really like the idea that sets it up, that they're sort of forced to go into this this mysterious city, which of course turns out to be a Dalek city, and I love the mischievous Doctor, the sort of devilish Doctor who's got to find out what's going on, so he'll deliberately sort of sabotage the TARDIS, or tell everybody that the TARDIS is broken so that he can actually go into that city and explore it and sort of force everybody to stick with him, even though he does it in the most unconvincing way possible, when they blatantly all look like he's lying. You feel like they know he's lying, but then they seem so shocked later, like 3 episodes later, or no, 2 episodes later, when we find out that actually, oh no, we could have just left anyway. But they're not very happy about it, so I like that trait of the first Doctor, that he's that sort of scheming, almost slightly evil, darker sort of Doctor that before he's really mellowed at all and is very much just wanting to find out what's going on, doesn't really care about the people around him other than Susan. So I really like that trait of the Doctor. And I think the stuff in the Dalek City is probably sort of the best parts of this story. Certainly the Dalek City is fantastically realised. Even the model shots, although you can tell they're a model, it is still a fantastically good-looking model, and of course it shows that they stuck with it so closely for The Witch's Familiar and Magician's Apprentice in 2015 when they went back to Skara, that it looks so similar in that episode to what it did in 1963, I think is testament to what a good job they did in creating that model city in the first place. It's such a very unusual and unique style of a city, very different, looks very, very alien. I think that was a great way early on in Doctor Who to really set out that this is a sci-fi show. It's not just a sort of mysterious historical show. There really is a major sci-fi element to this, going to alien worlds and meeting alien creatures, and that's fantastically started off by this fantastic city. And then all the sort of interior of the Dalek city also looks very good. It just all looks very otherworldly. The doors are too low, all the walls are very low, the doors are open a weird way, the doors are very low. It's just very sort of unusual and feels the sort of place where a human wouldn't live or wouldn't be, and I think that's a great way of early on building up the sort of tension and mystery to exactly what's going on. Of course, the cliffhanger episode 1 is just phenomenal. It's so iconic now, that plunger appearing up against, pushing Barbara up towards the wall and then it just sort of fading to black, I think is such a fantastic and clever way to sort of lead into that cliffhanger. It's brilliantly done and really just sets up the story so well from there in this menacing, mysterious creature of the Daleks. I mean, in terms of the Daleks in this episode, they're okay. They're reasonably good. I mean, I feel like sometimes some of the lines they have don't feel very Dalek-like. They feel almost a little bit too human. Just some of the things they say, the way they say them, it just felt a little bit out of place at times. But it wasn't a major problem, and certainly for most of the episode they really did feel like a proper menace, a proper threat. And they did kill quite a few people, a few of the Thals they did actually kill, so I thought that was quite nice to show them straight away being such a threat, and also obviously paralysing Ian for a period as well, just showing straight away that if you don't do what they say, you're in trouble, and showing that off to a whole new generation for the very first time, I think is fantastic. And you can clearly see why the Daleks caught on straight away as such a sort of iconic villain. I mean, once we've got into the Dalek city, and the sort of Doctor and co have been trapped and captured and everything, it does once again get a little bit into that sort of escape capture style to it, and is when it starts to drag a little bit. I mean, it's because the Doctor and co essentially get stuck in the Dalek city for about 3 or 4 episodes trying to find a way out. Obviously Susan gets to go out for a bit to meet the Thals, but other than that they're all just stuck in there. So that does kind of drag it out a little bit, and we start to sort of have to focus on different elements, obviously learning a bit about the Thals for the first time and exactly who they are, this mysterious sort of nuclear war between the two of them, 2 races in the past that's caused the world to be completely destroyed, essentially. I thought it's a nice, interesting idea, and already building up a bit of sort of lore behind this planet of Skaro, what happened here in the past with 2 sort of warring races. And then the Daleks, of course, and as we learn later on, the Khaleds turning into the Daleks, but at this time it's all just the Daleks versus the Thals, and I think it's quite a nice dynamic. And obviously it's interesting having the Thals being pacifists, essentially. They don't want to fight at all, and yet I love that stuff with Ian sort of convincing the Thals that actually they have got that fight inside them, and that sort of trying to tip them over the edge to be able to fight, and sort of building up to that I thought was a really nicely done scene in sort of mid part of the story. And you can also straight away see very much the sort of similarities where Terry Nation got the idea of the Daleks from with the Nazis. Of course, everybody knows, well, most people know that certainly the Daleks were based on the Nazis originally. And you can very much see that in this story, that they straight away want to wipe out everybody who isn't like them. They're sort of scheming, they don't accept anything that doesn't go their way, they will just kill people. And they're just totally evil. And I think that's a great villain to set up in Doctor Who straight away, one that is just bad. Well, other than Rusty, but mostly just bad. But I have to admit that it does feel, there is a sort of point where it really does feel like they're just dragging this episode along, because we spend the first 3 or 4 episodes of them ending up in the city, getting stuck there, then needing some drugs, then getting the drugs, then escaping. It looks like, oh, we're pretty much done now, and 4 episodes in, and then suddenly, oh no, the TARDIS can't fly away. Oh dear, we'll have to go back into the city and spend 3 more episodes getting back into the city to go and defeat the Daleks, because that's the only way we're going to get out of here. So it did feel like you could have cut this story down to 4 episodes and forgot that sort of plot going back to the city. I mean, it has good parts to it, and obviously this sort of scene at the end between when the Thals attack the Daleks is quite good. I do quite like that. It's quite a good sort of fight scene for early Doctor Who, I think, and that's quite nice. But overall it does just feel too dragged out. And we're still at this stage with this story being all about just getting back to the TARDIS. It's the same in An Unearthly Child. That's their only real goal after sort of 1 episode, is to just, we need to get back home, we need to get back to the TARDIS, or get back to London or wherever else. So it'd be nice when we get to a stage where they're just going on adventures a bit more, which I think comes fairly soon, but it'll be nice when we get to that, rather than it always just being, we end up somewhere and have to try and get back to the TARDIS, which is okay, but I would like to see a bit more variety, shall we say. But I do all sound rather negative about this episode, don't I? I mean, I did enjoy it. It does have a lot of merits to it. All the stuff with the Daleks is really interesting, and I do like early on having the Daleks sort of stuck in their city. Of course, it's a bit of an Achilles heel and a bit plot convenient at times, but I do quite like that element too. And I think it's necessary in Dalek Invasion of Earth, when that comes up, to have them be able to go outside their city or their spaceship or whatever else. But I think it's quite nice early on to limit them into that city, and especially as the city's so well realised and such a sort of got great control room, and even sort of like the sound effects and the sort of Dalek City music you hear in the background or in the Dalek control room. And I think it's testament to how good some of that music was early on, that they still use that Dalek control room sort of ticking sound to it. You still hear that in the latest Dalek episodes. In Magician's Apprentice, to which you're familiar, it was there in a huge amount. So I thought it really does just show how early on, how well they were pioneering, creating music, and even the actual Daleks themselves, they still look pretty much the same. There's not a huge amount of difference in the design now, and it just sort of shows that straight away they made such iconic designs, iconic music, iconic characters, and it really worked from the off. And that's what this episode's all about. It's about introducing the Daleks, giving Doctor Who the Daleks for the very first time. The plot isn't the greatest, but it's all about introducing the Daleks, and it did a great job of that. So I did enjoy it overall. Probably a touch better than Unearthly Child. Not really an all-time classic, but a good Doctor Who story. But now, what did you guys think about it? I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are on the Daleks. Even if you haven't watched it before, go and check it out. It's definitely a worthwhile story to watch. It feels quite an important story in the history of Doctor Who, but if you have seen it, you've maybe seen it years ago, or have seen a lot of the William Hartnell era, I'd love to know what you guys have to say about this episode. But other than that, remember to like this video, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll be back very soon with another video. I'm sure I'll be reviewing The Edge of Destruction as well very soon, but I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.